Tonight, we are learning of more carjackings across the country, including one city where 3 people fought back and shot their attackers. But one police department is taking steps that critics say could cause more car thefts. We'll tell you what they're doing. Plus, wireless companies make other plans for their 5G launch after the airlines warned of catastrophic consequences. What exactly is going on with this technology, and are all the concerns legit? First, though, Europe bracing for a possible war as Russia seems intent on invading Ukraine. Admiral James Stavridis, former NATO Supreme Commander in Europe, joins us in a moment for that. It's great to have you with us. We're live in our NewsNation studios here in Chicago, and the Donlin Report starts right now.
You can't use your phone until we land, sir.
We're flying in a Lockheed Eagle Series L-1011. Came off the line 20 months ago. Carries a SIM-5 transponder tracking system. Are you telling me I can still flummox this thing with something I bought at Radio Shack?
So that, of course, is seen from the pilot episode of the Emmy Award-winning show The West Wing, filmed more than 20 years ago. And now tonight, AT&T and Verizon are both putting a pause on the activation of 5G technology on towers around certain airports. Airline executives have voiced significant safety concerns and predicted catastrophic disruptions to travel and commerce. NewsNation's Brian Enton joins us now. Brian, I guess the first question is, how real is this threat, or is it Y2K.20?
Well, Joe, I get why some people are skeptical, especially because you remember for so long we were told you can't even turn your cell phone on a plane or there could be big problems. And then they realized that wasn't an issue. And now cell phones aren't such a big deal. But this is very different, according to the airline pilots that I spoke to today. They are very concerned about this 5G technology, which is a new form of 5G that has not ever been used in the United States near airports. And the concern has to do with the auto land function on the jetliners. You know, when it's foggy and you can't see the ground very well, these planes routinely use this radar connection to the ground that allows them to essentially automatically land. And that's the concern with the FAA. They're not sure how that technology is going to interact with this new 5G technology. Listen to what one pilot told me today.
The ramifications of the interference at a critical time of the landing could be hundreds of lives. And we can't do that. We can't say, well, we're not going to do anything until something really bad happens.
So the compromise, Joe, now is AT&T and Verizon say they're still going to roll out 90% of this new 5G technology tomorrow, but they will not roll it out outside certain airports within 2 miles of those airports, which, when you think about it, is really a lot of people. There are a lot of downtown areas that are very, very close to some major airports.
Brian, we've already had, I think, at least 2 delays on this rollout, and now this thing has gone all the way to the White House to try to find some sort of a solution that works.
Yeah, and it got down to the wire today, Joe. I mean, this was set to roll out near airports tomorrow. An airline sent out this really, really critical statement saying, basically, if this happens tomorrow morning, there is going to be chaos, thousands of flight delays, and millions of customers impacted. So a lot of frustration on both sides about how this really got down to the last minute.
Brian, what do we know from the pilots you've talked with? I mean, if there's any question, we're all on board, right? Let's make sure this thing is safe. But I'm wondering, do we know what impact it definitively has? I mean, has this been tested? Do the pilots know what happens to them when they try to do this auto land, which is critical when visibility is so poor?
Well, they don't know, and that's the issue, especially with certain kinds of planes, for example, like the Boeing 787. That's one of the airplanes that they're especially concerned about. I mean, this has gotten so extreme, Joe, that even though they've reached this temporary agreement, there are already airlines canceling flights from overseas, Emirates included, Air India saying, look, we're going to cancel flights to certain airports until you have this whole thing fully worked out, because, like you heard the pilots say, they don't want to take the chance chance. I mean, if there's one small little error, again, this is at the last moment during an auto land where the pilots cannot see the runway. If there is the smallest of an error at that moment, it could be catastrophic.
All right, Brian Entin, thank you very much for the update and for starting us out tonight. We want to bring in now a former attorney for AT&T and founder and president of Vertical Consultants, Hugh Odom. Hugh, we appreciate the time, and I know we're asking you to probably answer a few aviation questions that you may not be equipped to answer, but we do appreciate you joining us. Let's start right there, I guess, with the timing of this, Hugh. Why are we at this point and we still haven't figured this out?
That's a great question. That's what the wireless industry is scratching their head about, because the aviation industry has known about the deployment of 5G for almost 2 years now. And then in December, there was supposed to be a launch of 5G fully, and it was delayed again for another month and then another 2 weeks here recently. And they've been coming to try to work this out. So I don't know why this keeps on getting pushed out, but the quickest answer I have is that the aviation industry really hasn't defined what the problem is. They've said there's possible problems, but the wireless industry can't calibrate against something if they don't have something to provide, that being the aviation industry. So I think right now, the reason we've been pushed to this limit is because to solve a problem, you have to know exactly what the problem is.
Well, how did they know even remotely that that there's an auto land issue? Hasn't this been rolled out in a number of 40 countries? Is that right? Wouldn't we know more definitively, again, the impact on aviation from this technology?
Well, you're exactly right. There's 40 countries across the country that 5G is up and running, and it's running around airports. There's two basic differences. The first is what we're talking about is a C-band level frequency. And in Europe, more particularly France, because that's the model everybody's comparing to, the frequency is a little bit different. And so the aviation industry is saying, hey, that's what the cause may be, or that one of the causes may be, because the AT&T and Verizon are using a little bit different frequency in that C-band level. The second thing is the perimeter or radius around airports in Europe, and more particularly France, is approximately 2 miles in circumference. And the AT&T and Verizon originally did not have any buffer around there. They moved it back to 1 mile, and now what the resolution has been to temporary resolution is they're going to not turn on 5G service within that 2 mile radius. And I think that's what the FAA and the aviation industry is pointing to as a possible solution to this. But AT&T and Verizon are not going to shut that down permanently because there's too many negative impacts for them doing that.
Are they okay with where this compromise appears to be right now, Hugh? Because the alternative is they turn it on and they have issues and they don't want to be there, I'm sure.
Well, if you're speaking about about the wireless industry, no, they don't want anybody to be unsafe.
Right.
They're just, again, they're trying to find the problem and then provide a solution. I think that they want to be able to turn it on. It causes a lot of different issues. Just think about if you walked into the airport today and you have a 5G phone and you can't use it fully, and because you have no service at the airport. So they want to be able to find the solution, but that being the wireless industry, but they're trying to still work this out. As you raised the first thing, they've had 2 years to identify this. They just need to find a compromise that benefits both sides. Safety on one side, the aviation industry, on the wireless industry, the ability to fully serve their customers.
Well, it sounds like we do have some work to do for sure, and at least another delay for now. We'll see where it goes. Former attorney for AT&T and founder and president of Vertical Consultants. Again, Hugh Odom, we appreciate you coming on and answering some of our questions. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
So the CDC director admits she needs to do a better job of messaging to the public. She's even undergoing media training to be more clear. We have 2 more examples of what we call COVID confusion for you. That coming up. Next, though, tensions rising in Europe. We'll talk with an admiral about whether we should be worried about a world war. That's ahead. Vladimir Putin and his team have pretty much ignored everything President Biden and his team have said over the past few months. So should we temper expectations as Secretary of State Antony Blinken heads to Europe? That's the Pulse of America tonight. Blinken will meet with the president of Ukraine tomorrow and his Russian counterpart on Friday. And unless this latest diplomatic effort leads to an unlikely breakthrough, it appears Russia is likely going to invade Ukraine, at least at some point. Europe is bracing for it. Take a look at this headline in the U.S. Sun, talking about World War III fears. Even Poland admits Europe is at its greatest risk of war in 30 years. Russia's aggression isn't confined to one continent either. In a threat to the U.S., it says it won't rule out sending troops to Cuba and Venezuela right on America's doorstep. The Biden administration has made it clear it will not send troops to Ukraine, where that country's forces are preparing for a possible Russian attack. But the U.S. may send military equipment, conjuring up shades of Afghanistan in the 80s, something we're still paying for as a country. But either way, something likely needs to be done about Russia on this issue. Nothing has worked yet, so what is it? And does the Biden administration have an answer? Let's ask Admiral James Stavridis, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander Europe, a perfect guest. The program on this topic tonight is also the author of the book, The Sailor's Bookshelf, 50 Books to Know the Sea. Admiral, thanks for joining us again. We appreciate it. How real do you think this threat is? And do you think Russia will invade? Is it imminent?
I think it is a checklist, and we see Vladimir Putin working his way down the checklist. One thing you didn't mention, Joe, the Russians just pulled all of their diplomats out of their embassy in Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. That is a very worrisome point. If I were going to put percentages on it, Joe, I'd say it's a 20% chance. This is a full-on blitzkrieg, probably a 40% chance that it is a limited incursion, probably into the southeast, which you're showing on a map. I still think there's a 30 to 40% chance we can ratchet these tensions down, but it's going to require diplomacy on both sides and a very resolute White House.
All right, the White House did talk about this today. Here's Press Secretary Jen Psaki from the news conference addressing just this issue. Here's a clip.
So let's be clear. Our view is this is an extremely dangerous situation. We're now at a stage where Russia could at any point launch an attack in Ukraine. And what Secretary Blinken is going to go do is highlight very clearly there is a diplomatic path forward. It is the choice of President Putin and the Russians to make whether they are going to suffer severe economic consequences or not.
So 30 to 40% chance, you said, of ratcheting this down, Admiral. That's encouraging. If you were still the NATO Supreme Allied Commander Europe, what would you be doing right now to address this?
I'd be pressing Washington to get as many weapons immediately into the hands of Ukrainians. We need to make this as hard and as painful as possible for the Russians. So that's anti-air, anti-tank, offensive cyber, better intelligence, all the things we can do to stiffen them. We want to make Ukraine kind of a porcupine. You know, there's a reason bears, Russians, don't eat porcupines, because they're hard to digest. We need to show Putin the cost. And then secondly, to my old job as Supreme Allied Commander at NATO, I'd be doing everything I could to bring that NATO alliance together, to tell the Russians there are going to be severe economic sanctions for this. It may be those two sticks will have an effect on Vladimir Putin. We'll know a lot more after those meetings on Friday.
All right, 2 points you bring up, Admiral, because the first is the U.S. response. And this is what has so many people concerned, not just the U.S., but the U.K. as well. And how we would respond if this happens is what people fear could lead to a much bigger war.
It absolutely could, Joe. And what we ought to worry about is miscalculation. It would be an incident in which, for example, some of these weapons that we have provided the Ukrainians shoot down Russian aircraft. So that is what ought to concern us. So you need both the diplomacy and the military piece of this thing together.
All right, so let's talk about NATO as well. You brought that up. That's at the heart of a lot of this, right? Because the belief is that Putin is trying to keep the NATO alliance from bringing Ukraine in. He doesn't want that or any ex-Soviet countries. Is that the key to trying to I guess, ratchet this down, in your words?
Well, it certainly would be a quick way to ratchet it down, but it would be at extreme cost. We would be handing Vladimir Putin the keys to the NATO alliance, effectively giving him a veto over who can come in, who could go out. We're never going to do that. That's a preposterous demand on the part of Putin. Is there some trade space diplomatically? Sure. Conventional troop deployments, missile positioning, our anti-ballistic missile systems in Eastern Europe. There are things we can discuss with the Russians. I'm sure that Secretary Blinken will convey that to Secretary Minister of Foreign Affairs Lavrov on Friday. But again, I can't overemphasize, we've got to have a resolute military preparation to show Russia, not that we're going to send troops there, we're not going to do that, but we are going to do everything we possibly can to make this as difficult and as unpalatable for the Russians as possible militarily. Put that alongside the economic sanctions. That's our best bet of getting Vladimir Putin to step away from the vehicle, so to speak.
We talked about how great you are as a guest on this because you were also the CENTCOM commander. I'm wondering what you make of these threats involving Cuba and Venezuela.
Indeed. When I commanded U.S. Southern Command, looking at that world to the south of us, I'd be very concerned about if Russia were to move nuclear weapons into either of those countries. That, I don't want to use the words red line, but we definitely would be on full alert and pushing back hard on any kind of a nuclear deployment. If the Russians want to send some ships and some troops and some tanks, that does not seriously impact our security. We need to be very concerned about nuclear weapons, much as President Kennedy was during the Cuban Missile Crisis, Joe.
All right. Listen, Admiral James Stavridis, what a great guest for us, as we mentioned tonight. It's always an honor to share some of our air with you and to get much smarter at the end of it all. Former Supreme Allied Commander Europe, thanks again. We appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks, Joe.
Subject of interest. British intelligence had previously given that tag to Malik Faisal Akram, even putting him on a watch list before he took several hostages last weekend at a Texas synagogue. This all raising the question now, how did he get here? And are we susceptible to more similar so-called lone wolf attacks? Former covert CIA operative Mike Baker joins us now. He's CEO of Portman Square Group. So, Mike, this guy was on the Brits' radar as a possible threat. Jen Psaki said he wasn't on our radar. How did he end up here?
Yeah, well, that highlights a problem that we've had for years and years, and it's going to be frustrating for people to hear that since it's all those years on since 9/11 and the implementation of a lot of security protocols. But oftentimes, I hate to say it, databases, particularly when you're talking crossing boundaries and moving from one international jurisdiction to another, oftentimes databases don't talk to each other, or the information is not uploaded or shared with liaison partners. So that's one of the problems that even to this day we continue to have.
Is this an intel failure then, Mike, or is it a policy or a procedural problem?
Well, intel failure gets thrown out there an awful lot. I'm not a big fan of the phrase unless it actually is. This is more of a process failure. We know how to share information with our liaison partners, but oftentimes, because it's a human endeavor, it's never going to be perfect. And we keep trying to get to that point, keep trying to automate systems and improve the way that information is shared. But, honestly, we're never going to get to that point where it's a zero risk game.
Yeah, the other issue here, Mike, that complicates things are the mental health issues here. We talk a lot about these lone wolf attacks, but beyond the mental health aspect of this particular case, what kind of challenges do these lone wolf cases present?
Well, they're often, as in this case, and as we've seen in the past and so many others, they're just not on the radar screen, right? And so you don't know until the event happens. We're not tracking the individual, or if the person had come to the attention, it wasn't followed through. So there was not a continuing monitoring that was going on. And oftentimes that's a procedural problem with the way that you have to maintain a file on an individual. You have to, at a certain point, you have to close it. Civil liberties come into play. And so this is the problem that's going to continue. Lone wolves are always going to be an issue, no matter what their ideology is, no matter what their mental health state is. It's a heavy lift at all times for law enforcement and for the intel community.
Yeah. Are we doing enough, Mike, do you think, to stop these? I know we're asking an awful lot. I guess I'm just wondering, I don't know, a fraction of what you do, but why a guy like this would have been on the no-fly list?
Yeah, well, you have to meet certain, criteria. And again, there's always this balance, right? I mean, former President Obama at one point famously said there is no trade-off between security and civil liberties. And yes, there is, frankly. So he was off base on that one. And so we're always trying to find that balance, right? If you're constantly monitoring individuals who, for whatever reason, may have come onto your radar at one point, protocol nowadays says, no, you've got to put a line under that. You've got to shut that file down at a certain point if they don't meet certain criteria. So it's not a perfect endeavor. And also, look, honestly, resources are stretched absolutely thin now, whether we're talking about terrorism investigations, counter-espionage, counterintelligence investigations, law enforcement, particularly at the federal level here in the U.S., they are stretched very thin.
All right, Mike Baker, Portman Square Group CEO and former covert CIA officer. It's always great to talk with you as well. We appreciate you pulling over and giving us some time.
Thank you, Joe.
Take care.
Take care.
The FBI issuing a national alert in the case of a woman who vanished 18 years ago. How this could help solve the case. That's coming up on NewsNation Prime tonight, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. Plus, good news for the GOP, a dramatic swing as more people are identifying with that party. Up next, someone from the RNC on the one big thing that could spoil the momentum. We'll talk to Paris Denard ahead. And as for the Democrats, there's an issue they're still hanging on to that's a proven loser. We'll tell you what that is and ask a leading Democrat about that as well. It's all ahead. GOP appears to be gaining momentum with voters with just months to go before the midterm election. Gallup polling shows party preferences shifted from a 9-point Democratic lead at the beginning of 2021 to a 5-point Republican lead by the end of the year. So what's behind it, and will the GOP keep their edge? Here to answer these questions, Paris Denard and Laura Fink, two great voices who tell it like it is. Paris, it's a good day to have you on because you've been enjoying the smooth waters, but things are getting a little choppy all of a sudden now. Former President Trump calling Florida Governor Ron DeSantis dull, and then DeSantis today saying backing Trump in 24 is too much to ask. Who you got?
Well, fortunately for the RNC, we have to remain neutral. And so all I know is that at the end of this process, we're going to have a fantastic candidate who's going to beat whomever the Democrats put up if Joe Biden decides to run again.
All right, Laura, let's get to you now because this has been a swing. And it seems like this has really, I guess, affected both parties at the top. In the beginning of 2021, the Democrats had the swing because Trump was unpopular. And then by the fourth quarter, it swung to the Republicans because Biden was unpopular. What do you do about this?
Well, I think we gotta take it in stride. Politics are volatile. With the pandemic and misinformation at an all-time high, we see this swing back and forth. The voters are upset. They are, especially those independents. And so I think you just stay calm. You look at the December numbers, it shows a 2-point split. Voters are about evenly split. Ultimately, though, this isn't as worrisome as the poll numbers. Biden's got to recover. He's got to get those poll numbers back. And right now, he is working on that. The job numbers are solid. Wages are up. But you got to get inflation under control. But I will say this, one more comment on what Paris was saying about the other topic. Look, if you're running against Donald Trump and you're a Republican, you got to choose one of two things: get on bended knee or take him head on. And so far, there isn't a Republican challenger that's been willing to do that.
Well, it sounds like DeSantis might, Paris, at least from his indications today. And I guess my question, I know you guys have to stay neutral, but at some point, we talked about this in our meetings today, the Republicans have to make a choice on this, right? I mean, you have to deal with former President Trump and what he's going to do. And I guess my question to you is, as at least an out maybe, is when would you ideally like to get that answer so you can move on one way or the other?
Well, that's why we have a primary process, and we'll go through the process. And that's also why our RNC chairwoman has been taking on the debate commission and telling them that, look, the debates have to be fair, the debates have to be objective, and there's a series of propositions and suggestions that she put forth in a series of letters to them, hoping that they will change their tune so that it is a fair process for the American people at the end of our process after the primaries are completed and we have our nominee.
What makes the debates unfair, Paris? Why would you run from these?
Well, one of the reasons is that the debate commission held debates after hundreds of thousands of people had already gone to vote because of early voting. So one suggestion would be hold the debates before that ever happens. Another instance that happened was the debate commissioners were saying disparaging things about the Republican nominee. That's wrong. Another thing is one of the debate moderators actually worked for the Democrat nominee. Shouldn't have that. That shows bias. And so we said there's a series of things that can be done, and there's fair and objective suggestions that they should follow so that we can have a fair process.
Is this reparable,
whomever
do you
he or
think?
she might be.
Is it
Say it
reparable,
again?
Paris? Can they change it to a point where you'll take part?
Well, if they make those changes, we will go ahead and tell our nominee to participate. We want to participate in debates. We want to have that. And we should hope that the Democrat will want to debate the Republican nominee any place, anytime, anywhere, as long as that it's fair.
Right.
And that's the objective and smart thing to do, because we know that our policies and our record is going to be stronger than what Biden and Harris are doing. That's why you see tanking poll numbers for Biden and Harris. That's why you see the Republicans swinging in the direction of people wanting to identify with Republicans, because they see that things are bad on a whole host of issues. All these crises that they've created are bad for the economy, bad for public safety, bad for education.
What have we created? The pandemic?
Well, independents, Laura, let me get you on this, because independents are the ones who have, I guess, kind of swung this way because they lean more. They were earlier with Democrats. Now they're leaning more toward Republicans. And I wanted to bring up the Michigan Democrats that deleted a weekend Facebook post questioning the role of parents in deciding what's taught in public schools. The quote was, "The client of the public school is not the parent, but the entire community, the public." I don't need to tell you, this is one of the issues McAuliffe had in losing Virginia. Why double down on this, Laura?
Well, I can't speak for the Michigan Democratic Party, but that's one voice in a chorus of voices. I think when you talk about the school debate, I think it's really about having all parental voices heard, not just the loudest ones, not just the ones funded by the Koch brothers. You know, originally in Loudoun County, where this was real, for this debate truly got on fire, it was a Black and brown parents' children were being racially bullied. And so the school district was responding to that. Now, what I would say is this: it's not any single parent or group of parents that deserves to have the voice in terms of our curriculum. And in fact, in Loudoun County, in response to many white parents' concerns, they actually changed and adjusted the curriculum. That's how these sort of things should play out. But you're going to see the GOP weaponize this issue because they think they have a winning one. But I would say this: be careful, because it could backfire, because there are parents of differing views than from those that are the loudest in the room.
Well, Paris, you did win on this in Virginia, or is that an overstatement?
It's not an overstatement in terms of listening to parents. I think every parent should have a voice, and they should have more say in their children's educational system. That's why the Republican Party stands for school choice and parental choice in education in charter schools. That's why we looked at things like critical race theory and said, the Virginia Governor Youngkin, said, no more. It's not going to be taught in our schools. No aspect of this curriculum is going to be applied when it comes to critical race theory. We've got to listen to parents, not the teachers' unions, not that whole holding students hostage. We've got to listen to students.
Go ahead, Laura. I'll give you the last word.
I was just going to say, all parents. I mean, I think it's important to listen to all parents. And, you know, the other thing is Youngkin has to be careful, because he also doubled down on banning mask mandates while his children go to private school in Maryland. So he does risk overreaching here on some of these alleged concerns of parents. I mean, there are definitely parents are split on a lot of these issues.
Alleged concerns of parents?
I'm sorry?
Alleged concerns of parents? I think we should listen to parents and take them seriously. And it's really
well, there are
the
parents who want the mask mandate.
You got to take all the parents seriously, not just the ones that have the loudest voices and that are complaining about issues that you've pointed out. There's a whole host of parents, and I think represented by the. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
Oh, no. Go wrap up, because we're out of time. Go ahead, Laura.
I will say this: look, when the environmentals change, if the economy changes, Republicans better look out, because Joe Biden's coming back.
I like
it.
Biden's not coming back. We're ready to lead, and we're going to lead and retire Nancy Pelosi.
They always bring the heat. I love Paris Denard and Laura Fink. Good to see you both. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
So we knew the nation was divided over the vaccine, but new polling shows it goes beyond just disagreement. According to a poll conducted by the Heartland Institute and Rasmussen reports, nearly half of Democrats think the government should be able to fine or imprison those who publicly question the efficacy of the shot. And if that doesn't surprise you, how about this? In Washington state, the Department of Transportation is now refusing help from unvaccinated county workers to clear snow. Joining me for more on this now, one of our favorite voices of reason. In fact, he is with Reason Magazine, the senior editor, Robbie Suave. Good to see you, Robbie. So folks are okay with jail time on this. What's happened to us?
I know it's ridiculous. I mean, I will say to take this poll with just a bit of a grain of salt. This polling firm is known for being a little right-leaning. And, you know, you always do find crazy poll results. If you poll 100 people, you know, you can find 12% that will say, you know, Donald Trump is a cactus or something. Like you will get crazy results. That said, I am alarmed by the number of Americans. So this was mostly Democrats. Obviously, we're very split down the middle country, but Democrats saying that harsh punitive measures like taking away children, you know, prison time even would be justified. This wasn't majorities of Democrats, but it was a troubling number to see.
Yeah, you tweeted on this, Robbie, and we'll show the tweet here. But basically, I'll sort of paraphrase, I guess. Are we down to just a couple of choices here? Get the shot or don't, but we move on because eventually we're all going to get this thing. It sure appears.
I mean, that's where we're at. I know more people every day who get it. Omicron is super, super contagious. And, you know, that's regrettable. But guess what? The vaccines still do tremendously well. They do not prevent you from getting it. You still will get it. You can and will get it. But you're not going to have a serious disease. You're overwhelmingly likely to avoid the hospital, severe disease and death. Or if you're young and healthy, you also have some good protection. So, you know, we're in the phase where this is just the flu for everyone who's taken, you know, reasonable step of getting vaccinated or being, you know, very healthy, and that's all we can do.
Right.
Gotta move on. What else can we do?
That's it. And the messaging we've talked a lot about, Robbie, and now the CDC director has admitted she hasn't really been clear enough and is now getting coaching to try to improve. Do you think that helps? And do these new tests that are now available, they're out a little bit early now to get for free from the government. Talk about efficiency. It only took a couple months, right?
Right, yeah, you can order your test. They'll show up 7 to 12 days. Of course, if you start showing symptoms and you want to get a test, I mean, you might be done with your bout of COVID by the time you got the shipment from the government. So I'm not sure this is the best plan, frankly. But, you know, I'm in Washington, D.C. I was at a restaurant last night. It was packed. It was jam-packed of people, maskless, partying, eating, making merry. I think that's great. I have questions, though, about why school children have to wear masks for 8 hours a day when they're pretty safe from COVID anyway, and adults aren't following these rules. I think it's a hard thing to justify, and we should take a serious look at changing those policies.
Did you need a Vax card in your ID to get into the restaurant?
I did. It's now a requirement. That's the mayor's requirement, and I would rather not have implemented that requirement, but so be it. And I think we need to move away from, especially from mask mandates in these schools. These kids masked 8 hours a day. You know, the CDC actually changed its guidance and said, well, maybe kids who are learning to read should at the very least have clear see-through masks because this might be harming their ability to learn to read. The CDC quietly changed that guidance a few weeks ago. They didn't tell anybody.
More of the messaging. There you go. Reason Magazine senior editor Robbie Suave. Good to see you, Robbie. Take care.
Thank you.
Carjacking still an ongoing problem in cities across the country. One city is taking actions that critics say could cause more car thefts. That's next. Share this with you. Check out this video just into NewsNation here. It's police body cam footage from that massive explosion at a home in the Bronx. In New York today, the police, knowing there were people inside, ran into the burning building where they found a woman trapped in the debris. One person died from this explosion and 8 others were injured, including 5 police officers. Mayor Eric Adams said a gas leak is being looked at as a possible cause of the explosion. An uptick in carjackings around the country has Americans on edge as crime continues to surge. In Chicago, a woman was carjacked twice in the same week. She literally had her car returned by police only to have it carjacked again. Meantime, in Philadelphia, legally armed drivers have taken matters into their own hands, shooting 3 would-be carjackers in separate incidents so far this year. In Seattle, though, a new equity policy bans police from certain kinds of traffic stops, like expired registration, no front license plates, or cracked windshields. Critics say it opens the door for even more car thefts. Our next guest is from Seattle, has his own radio show, Jason Rant. It's great to have you again, Jason. Good to see you. What's the idea behind this policy? What's behind it? Why?
Well, the reason why they announced this, and by the way, they did this on the Friday before this past weekend, which meant they did it behind a 3-day weekend. And usually you hide important policies there that you think will be controversial. They did it over concerns of equity. The basic argument coming from the Seattle Inspector General, her name is Lisa Judge. She put out a memo last year around May that basically said when police pull over motorists, if they're black, they have a higher likelihood of being seriously injured and or killed. Now, there's no data to back that up in Seattle at all, but it goes with this national narrative around policing and the black community. When it was announced and put into place by the Seattle Police Department, they couched it around equity terms, suggesting that people who are low income are disproportionately impacted by these tickets that they might get because they can't afford them. Now, we kind of call it out because by that argument, then you wouldn't give out any tickets whatsoever, and it's the argument that goes behind trying to get rid of cash bail. Police are looking at this and saying this is ludicrous. Because number one, we don't just randomly pull people over to push these laws forward. We are doing this very strategically when we suspect a car might be stolen. And we've seen a rash of those stolen cars here in Seattle.
So am I missing something, Jason, or was that actually part of the original plan, was to not pull cars over, period? And that in the end, then, this is a compromise?
Yeah, this is being positioned as a compromise. The Seattle Police Officers Guild, they push back against this plan to basically get rid of all traffic stops. The concern is that they're going to implement this and then say, well, it's been a success. Let's look at some of the data, not really present all the data because you can't when you're not pulling over people who are stealing cars. And they'll say, well, let's move forward again. And they believe that they're going to continue to lurch forward and lurch forward and lurch forward until we get to the point where we're at the original proposition, which was to ban all traffic stops across the board.
What's been the reaction in Seattle from people and the police union now moving forward, Jason?
Well, the people don't quite know that this is happening yet, because as I said, they announced this right before a 3-day weekend on a Friday afternoon. So it's not really gotten out there. The people who are aware of it are certainly scratching their heads and saying, that doesn't seem like a smart move, particularly in the context of the statewide laws that were passed last year by Democrats on policing. Because right now, you cannot detain a suspect under anything other than probable cause. And so not reasonable suspicion, which is, let's say you saw one of these instances where a license plate was missing, and even you had a bullet hole in the back of a windshield. Well, that's enough to pull someone over. You can't do that anymore in Washington state because there's no probable cause. So police are shining a giant spotlight on this, saying criminals are getting away with their behavior because of all these new laws.
What do they say is the answer?
They say actually allowing them to police. We've gone in the opposite direction in the last several years, where not only are we not allowing them to police, but when they are able to make arrests, we're not seeing any serious charges. So people who are committing like violent felonies, they're being put into restorative justice programs instead of actually getting put into jail. And while restorative justice programs can work and they have a place in this conversation, generally, when we're talking about some very serious crimes, including like driving a car in a drive-by, they're not working, and we're seeing the criminal continuously getting another chance and continuously recommitting some kind of criminal element.
Have things turned around at all there in Seattle, Jason? Because I know initially it was one of the cities at the forefront of defunding the police with the situation with the CHOP protest zone. But now I think there have been a couple of elections at least, right, that have tried to turn the tide on that, and they're now more efforting to refund the police.
It's kind of interesting here. They're not refunding the police in Seattle. In fact, they just cut more from the department. However, the voters in this last election, they put in place a Republican for Seattle City Attorney, the first Republican to citywide office in some 30-plus years. And she was running against someone who was an open abolitionist, who was saying she was not going to prosecute any crimes. Now, I don't know if the only reason we got a Republican in that case was because someone was so far to the left that even voters in Seattle rejected it. But we have one, and there's some high expectations for that role. And at the same time, we had one council member get elected to the council, a candidate to the council, who is a business owner, who's pro-police. She's still a Democrat, but she was up against someone who, again, was a socialist, an open abolitionist. So there's some course correction here, but that faction doesn't have the power yet in city government, so we're not expecting to see anything dramatic turnaround in the next year or so.
This new policy, is there a sunset aspect to it at all? Is it something they'll take a look at to see if it's working?
I imagine there's definitely not a sunset that's been built into it. I imagine they're constantly going to be looking at this and seeing the results. Again, though, my suspicion is, and this is the big fear, is that they're going to look at it with the intent of becoming more restrictive. And these policies have a tendency to spread. So they start in Seattle, but then all of a sudden you see them across the state and then soon in other states.
We'll see. Radio talk show host Jason Rant, good to see you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you so much. Good to see you.
You too. On Balance with Leland Vittert starts at the top of the hour, and he joins us now. What do you have?
We're working on the Golden State Warriors. You know this story about the guy who owns it, who says we shouldn't care about the Uyghurs, and he says he doesn't care about the Uyghurs. Billionaire, big-time guy, loves to talk about social justice, could care less about the biggest genocide going on in the world, and he's getting dragged on social media, right? Everyone's saying that, you know, he's out of touch and he's a miserable human being. We sort of have a different view of this. Why is he getting blamed for telling the truth? He's actually being honest, where so many other people are virtue signaling on social media saying, oh, I'm so concerned about this or so concerned about that, while they use their iPhones and wear Nike shoes.
All right, top of the hour, On Balance with Leland Vittert. Thanks.
See you then.
Yeah. In tonight's American Snapshot, the oldest F-16 pilot in the Air Force hangs up his wings. And to our viewers out there, we want to thank you for making NewsNation the fastest growing cable news network in the country. We appreciate you watching. Back with more after this.
How do I get one of those?
Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin sworn in as the 73rd governor of the Dominion state this weekend. And as is tradition in Richmond, he was welcomed with a few pranks. Youngkin's predecessor, Democrat Ralph Northam, made sure to remind him which party made Virginia the top state for business. Northam left a fleece with that rating and a blue Virginia cutout for Youngkin as well, ranking the state held twice during his tenure. Now, according to CNBC, that was anyway, but it wasn't all. Northam was also left a cutout of former President Donald Trump. There it is with the quote, "I'll call soon. We need to talk about 2024. Not the first time that Virginia governors have pranked each other. Former Governor Terry McAuliffe left Northam a custom pair of pillows with his face on them. How comforting. Back in 2014, Republican Bob McDonnell set an alarm clock for McAuliffe that went off at 4 a.m. And McDonnell also left another gift for McAuliffe, a taxidermied bear in the governor's private bathroom. No word on if the bear was Republican, Democrat, or independent. Hijinks and tomfoolery. Nothing like that in politics. All right, last night's show, we remembered one of the last remaining Tuskegee Airmen, Brigadier General Charles McGee. Tonight, we salute the oldest F-16 pilot who's hanging up his wings. For Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Hooter Faley, flying was a dream come true. He began his military service during Operation Desert Storm in 1991. But his journey to Iraq was far from traditional. Before joining the Air Force, Faley was a stockbroker in Miami. Seeking more, he joined the Air Force in 1988, and the rest is history. Faley began training for the infamous A-10 Warthog before later switching to the F-16. That job, he said, is truly one that the little boy never has to grow up with the coolest toys on the face of the earth you get to play with every day. His 33-year flying career, Faley logged nearly 5,000 flying hours. His retirement came one day before his 60th birthday. We salute him, and we thank you for watching. On Balance with Leland, next. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.